Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever noticed how the loudest voices are often the most uncertain? The ones who constantly seek validation, argue their point, and demand recognition are often the ones who are unsure of their own path. But the truly strong, the truly wise, do not waste their energy proving themselves to the world. They move in silence, focused on their purpose, allowing their actions to speak for them. Think about the greatest moments of growth in your life. Did they happen in front of a crowd or in the quiet, unseen moments when no one was watching? Real change does not require an audience. The strongest foundations are built in silence. The deepest roots grow underground before they ever break the surface. The most powerful transformations happen when we stop explaining ourselves and simply commit to becoming better. We live in a time where everyone feels the need to speak, to react, to be seen. But what if I told you that your greatest power lies in staying silent? What if the battles you are fighting with words are actually distractions pulling you away from your true purpose? Today, I want to share with you why focusing on yourself and staying silent is the key to real growth, unshakable peace, and lasting success. True transformation begins when we turn inward, away from the distractions of the world, and focus on our own growth. It is in the moments of silence, in the absence of external noise, that we truly come to understand who we are and what we are meant to become. The world constantly demands our attention, pulling us in different directions, tempting us to compare ourselves to others, to seek approval, and to prove our worth. But the deepest growth does not happen in the spotlight. It happens in the quiet places, in the moments of solitude where we reflect, pray, and align ourselves with what truly matters. Growth requires discipline, and discipline thrives in silence. When we quiet the world around us, we gain the ability to hear our own thoughts clearly. We begin to see our weaknesses without excuses and our strengths without arrogance. In these moments, we recognize the areas in which we need to improve, not because someone else pointed them out, but because our own hearts convict us. This is where change begins. It is not in reacting to criticism or in proving ourselves to others, but in the quiet, intentional work of self-reflection. Silence also creates space for wisdom. When we remove distractions, we allow ourselves to process experiences with greater clarity. We are no longer driven by emotion or impulse, but by thoughtfulness and discernment. Many people rush into decisions based on pressure from others, but those who take time to be still make choices rooted in purpose. Wisdom does not come from reacting to every situation, but from learning to pause, to think, and to trust in something greater than ourselves. There is a reason why some of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and people of faith valued solitude. They understood that true growth does not come from endless talking or constant engagement, but from a deep personal journey that no one else can walk for us. In silence, we strengthen our inner resolve. We build resilience. We develop the patience to endure hardships without losing faith. And most importantly, we cultivate a relationship with God that is not based on public displays, but on personal, quiet devotion. When we focus on ourselves in this way, we no longer feel the need to explain our progress to others. We do not seek validation from the world because we are secure in the work that is happening within us. This is the kind of growth that lasts. It is not surface level or dependent on external approval. It is deeply rooted, like a tree that stands strong because its roots have grown deep beneath the soil. This kind of transformation does not happen overnight. It requires patience and commitment. It means choosing to step away from distractions, to embrace solitude, and to trust that the quiet work being done within us is leading to something greater. And in time, the results will speak for themselves. Those who focus on their own growth and remain silent about it will one day see the fruit of their efforts, not because they sought attention, but because they stayed faithful to the process. In a world filled with noise and constant movement, It is easy to overlook the power of stillness. People are often driven by urgency, feeling the need to act, respond, and speak without pause. But just as a tree's roots grow deeper in quiet soil, our faith, wisdom, and character develop in moments of stillness. It is in silence that we gain the strength needed to withstand life's challenges, and in stillness that we allow God to shape us in ways we may not yet understand. Nature teaches us that true growth happens beneath the surface, away from distractions. A tree does not make noise as it strengthens its roots. The sun does not announce itself as it rises each morning. The most powerful forces in the world often move in silence, and the same is true for personal and spiritual growth. When we embrace stillness, we give ourselves the opportunity to reflect, to listen, and to learn. We are no longer reacting to every situation impulsively, but instead allowing time to guide our decisions with wisdom and patience. Stillness is not idleness. It is a choice to be intentional about our growth. Many people equate silence with weakness or inaction, but in reality, it is a sign of strength. Those who understand the power of stillness do not feel the need to prove themselves through constant words or actions. They know that sometimes the best response is no response at all. They recognize that wisdom is not always found in speaking, but often in listening. Listening to one's own thoughts, to the lessons of past experiences, and to the quiet voice of God that speaks in moments of peace. The world often pressures people to be loud, to be seen, to constantly share their opinions. But there is a wisdom in stepping back and allowing things to unfold naturally. Not every battle requires immediate action. Not every challenge demands a response. There is great power in waiting, observing, and trusting that some things will resolve themselves in time. When we embrace stillness, we also embrace faith. The faith that we do not need to control everything, that we can surrender our worries and let things happen as they are meant to. In the silence, we also find clarity. When life becomes overwhelming, the best thing we can do is step away from the noise and be still. It is in those moments that we reconnect with what truly matters. We see our priorities more clearly. We recognize what is worth our energy, and we regain the strength to move forward with purpose. Those who never pause, who never allow themselves moments of silence, often find themselves exhausted, directionless, and lost. But those who understand the power of stillness move through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that their strength is not in noise, but in depth. Stillness is a gift, a chance to grow stronger, to think deeper, and to trust more fully. It is in these quiet moments that we prepare ourselves for the challenges ahead, not with fear or haste, but with wisdom, patience, and unwavering faith. Not every battle in life requires your voice. In a world where people are quick to react, defend, and prove themselves, there is great wisdom in knowing when to remain silent. Many conflicts are merely distractions, pulling you away from your purpose and draining your energy on matters that do not deserve your attention. Learning to hold your peace is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of wisdom and strength. There are times when silence is the best response, not because you do not have an answer, but because the battle itself is not worth fighting. Some arguments are endless, leading nowhere but to frustration and division. Some criticisms are meant to provoke, not to seek truth. And some conflicts are designed to pull you into a place where you lose sight of your values. When you learn to discern which battles matter, you gain control over your time, energy, and peace of mind. You no longer feel the need to engage in every dispute, defend yourself against every false accusation, or explain your actions to those who have already made up their minds. Silence in the face of unnecessary battles does not mean you are avoiding confrontation out of fear. It means you are choosing your fights wisely. There is strength in walking away, in refusing to be drawn into negativity, and in keeping your focus on what truly matters. Some of the greatest victories in life are won not by reacting, but by maintaining self-control. When you stay silent in the face of foolishness, you show that your confidence does not come from proving others wrong, but from knowing who you are and what you stand for. One of the most powerful examples of this is seen in the life of Jesus. When he stood before his accusers, he did not argue, he did not fight to justify himself. He remained silent, knowing that his purpose was greater than their words. His silence was not defeat, it was a demonstration of his authority and trust in God's plan. He understood that not every battle needed his voice, because truth would prevail in the end. When you learn to let go of unnecessary battles, you free yourself from stress and distraction. You begin to focus on things that truly deserve your attention. Your faith, your growth, and your purpose. You no longer waste energy trying to convince those who do not want to understand, or proving yourself to people who will never be satisfied. Instead, you walk in peace, knowing that some things are best left unanswered. The world will always tempt you to respond, to react, to fight for validation. But wisdom teaches that not every situation deserves your words. Some battles are best won by silence, by trusting that time, truth, and faith will reveal everything in due course. The strongest people are not those who argue the loudest, but those who know when to stand firm, stay silent, and let their lives speak for them. God works in the quiet. While the world moves at a frantic pace, demanding instant results and loud displays of success, God often works in ways that are unseen, unnoticed, and silent. His most profound interventions do not always come with grand announcements or visible signs. Instead, he moves in the stillness, shaping hearts, opening doors, and preparing paths long before we realize what is happening. Silence is not a sign of inactivity. Just because we do not see immediate changes does not mean that God is not working. A seed buried in the soil does not sprout the moment it is planted. It takes time. It grows beneath the surface, hidden from sight, until the right moment arrives. In the same way, God's plans unfold in his perfect timing. When we feel that nothing is happening, when we are tempted to rush ahead or force outcomes, we must remember that God is always at work, even in the silence. Many times we expect God to speak to us in loud, dramatic ways. We look for clear signs, for unmistakable messages, for immediate answers to our prayers. But often God speaks in whispers. He speaks in the quiet moments of reflection, in the stillness of the night, in the peace that settles in our hearts when we surrender our worries to him. He does not need to shout to make his presence known. Those who are willing to be still, to listen, and to trust will hear his voice more clearly than those who are always caught up in noise and distraction. There are moments in life when God's silence feels overwhelming. We pray, we seek answers, but nothing seems to happen. In these moments, it is easy to doubt, to question whether God is truly listening. But silence is not absence. It is often preparation. God may be delaying an answer because he is preparing something greater than we imagined. He may be working in ways we do not yet understand, arranging circumstances, changing hearts, and setting things in motion for our good. Faith is trusting that God is working, even when we cannot see it. It is believing that he is present, even when we do not hear him. Some of the greatest transformations in our lives happen during seasons of waiting, when we learn to rely not on signs or feelings, but on trust. These quiet seasons shape our character, deepen our patience, and draw us closer to him. They remind us that we are not in control, and that true peace comes not from knowing every answer, but from trusting the one who does. God is always working, even in the silence. When we feel restless, when we are tempted to force our own way, we must remember that His timing is perfect. The quiet is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of preparation. If we are willing to be still, to trust, and to wait, we will one day see that God was working all along, shaping our lives in ways beyond what we could have asked or imagined. Growth is not something that happens overnight, nor is it something that requires constant validation from others. True progress, the kind that lasts, happens in private, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It is easy to seek recognition, to look for approval, to want others to notice the changes we are making, but real transformation does not come from outward applause. It comes from steady, silent effort, day after day. The strongest foundations are built in secret. A house is not made stronger by its decorations, but by the structure beneath it. A tree does not stand tall because of its leaves, but because of the roots that grow deep underground. In the same way, personal and spiritual growth happens when we do the unseen work, the work that no one else may notice, but that makes all the difference in who we become. Discipline, character, wisdom. These are not things that appear suddenly. They are formed in the moments when we choose to do the right thing, even when no one is there to see it. When we focus on growing in silence, we avoid the temptation of seeking validation from others. Many people start something new with excitement, only to give up when they do not receive immediate praise. They want their progress to be recognized, their efforts to be appreciated, and their growth to be acknowledged. But true growth is not about being noticed. It is about becoming stronger, wiser, and more faithful, regardless of who is watching. There is power in working quietly, in building something solid without the need for constant attention. A person who is secure in their journey does not feel the need to announce every step. They do not rush to prove themselves or to gain approval. Instead, they trust the process, knowing that real change is happening, even if no one else sees it yet. They understand that the best results come with time, patience, and persistence. Jesus often withdrew to pray in solitude. He did not seek attention for his moments of spiritual renewal. He knew that true strength comes from time spent in quiet preparation, from growth that happens away from the crowd. If the Son of God found power in silence, how much more should we embrace the unseen moments of our own journey? Growth in silence also protects us from unnecessary pressure. When we broadcast our goals too soon, we invite distractions, criticism, and expectations that may not align with the path we are meant to take. But when we grow in private, we allow ourselves the freedom to develop at our own pace, to make mistakes without fear, and to refine our purpose without interference. One day the result of our quiet growth will be evident. Not because we sought recognition, but because transformation cannot be hidden forever. The person who has strengthened their foundation in silence will stand firm when the storms of life come. The roots that have grown deep will sustain them, not because the world applauded their efforts, but because they remained faithful in the unseen work. You focus on yourself and stay silent, you allow your actions to speak louder than your words. Many people feel the need to constantly explain themselves, defend their choices, or prove their worth to others. But true confidence does not come from convincing people. It comes from living in a way that speaks for itself. A life of integrity, discipline, and faith does not require loud declarations. It naturally shows its strength through consistency and character. The most impactful individuals are not those who talk the most, but those whose lives reflect their values. A person who is truly dedicated to their growth does not waste time seeking approval. They understand that real change happens through action, not empty words. They do not announce their every move or seek validation for their decisions. Instead, they stay focused, knowing that in time their progress will be evident without the need for explanation. Silence protects you from unnecessary criticism. When you share every detail of your journey, you invite opinions that may not serve you. People will question your choices, doubt your abilities, and offer unsolicited advice that can distract you from your path. But when you move in silence, you keep your energy focused on what truly matters. You are not swayed by the noise of others because your foundation is built on something deeper: faith, purpose, and personal conviction. There is also wisdom in letting success reveal itself. The most powerful proof of growth, change, and achievement is not found in words but in results. A person who quietly works on themselves will naturally inspire others, not because they demanded attention, but because their transformation is undeniable. When you focus on your journey and let your progress speak for itself, you show the world that true strength does not need an audience. Jesus lived this principle. He did not seek recognition, nor did he try to prove himself to those who doubted him. He simply lived out his purpose, and his actions spoke louder than any argument. His kindness, his wisdom, his unwavering commitment to God's will, these were the things that defined him, not loud declarations or defensive words. In the same way, we are called to live in such a way that our faith, our discipline, and our growth become visible without explanation. This approach also brings peace. When you are not constantly trying to prove yourself, you are free from the burden of seeking approval. You no longer feel the need to respond to every doubt or justify every decision. Instead, you trust that your life itself will be evidence of your values. The right people will recognize your character, and the wrong ones will no longer matter. Focusing on yourself and staying silent is not about hiding. It is about directing your energy where it truly counts. When you commit to growth without distraction, when you let your life speak for itself, you become an example of quiet strength. And in the end, that speaks louder than anything words could ever say. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you step into a place of true strength, wisdom, and faith. You learn to choose your battles, trust God's timing, and embrace the quiet work of growth. You realize that not every argument needs your response, that God is always working behind the scenes, and that real transformation happens in the unseen moments. Your silence is not a sign of weakness. It is a mark of confidence, discipline, and trust. In a world that demands constant validation and noise, you choose a different path. You let your actions speak, your faith guide you, and your character define you. The results of your quiet growth will one day be evident. Not because you sought recognition, but because true strength cannot remain hidden. So stay focused. Keep walking your path. Trust that God is working, even when you cannot see it. And remember, the greatest victories are often won in silence. Good luck on your journey of growth, faith, and quiet strength. May you find peace in stillness, power in patience, and confidence in the work that is happening within you. Thank you for taking this time to reflect, and may your life be a testimony of quiet wisdom and unwavering purpose.